Welcome back for another episode of Exoborne Lore. This time we'll look at the many things revealed in the 10th stage of Rehack, which launched just before the February 12th playtest, as well as a first look at the early lore of the game itself, as seen in the playtest. This will be just a little taste of what's to come in the game, as my time was limited and we could only experience the first bit of the story in the test. I apologize in advance if I sound a little rough. I've been sick for most of this past week and lost my voice for a bit, so I probably don't sound the best, but I wanted to get this out to everyone as soon as I could, and I'm already recording this a week after I wanted to, so hopefully it doesn't sound too awful. Let's get right to it. Upon accessing the console for this stage, things began ominously with a timer at the top noting "You are being traced" and a timer counting down with just under 2 days worth of time. As usual, a message awaited from Omnis. This is Omnis. The storm above isn't just weather, it's pressure, turbulence, and the weight of what we're uncovering. Our connection flickers, fragile yet alive, much like the truth we're chasing. Rebirth's secrets are deeper than we imagined, woven into layers that shift and adapt to elude us. What lies ahead is more than encryption. It's a puzzle that refuses to stay solved. There isn't a single key reborn. The system learns. It reacts. So must we. Every step forward risks exposure. Every crack in their defenses risks revealing us, too. The margins are razor thin now, but we're committed, and we know you are too. There's a trace timer on us now. We need to know more before whatever happens when that expires. This isn't just about breaking code anymore. It's about understanding the design behind it, and digging into the why, not just the how. Ready yourself. The next phase begins now. Let's make them regret thinking they could hide this from us. Good luck. With this message, the Reborn set about their task, the looming timer ever present. Though nothing new was immediately apparent, a variety of hidden files were able to be revealed. Though the purpose of some of these remains a mystery, enterprising users were able to cut through the excess and strike at the core of the mystery, revealing a dynamic key code that changed with each attempt using a quantum key distribution protocol based on the principles of quantum mechanics. Discovering the methodology behind this system allowed them to access the technology and weapons research files of Rebirth, revealing some truly damning evidence against the company. The documents seem to range from a variety of time periods representing aspects of the company from both before and after the collapse occurred. The earliest of these items appears to be prior to the collapse and details a conversation via email between Nat Ciskowski, an investigative journalist for the Maynard Herald, and Tobias Solon, the head of weapons research for Rebirth in Colton County, likely a reference to Sharkmob senior community developer Tobias Solom. In the discussion, Nat points out a number of mysterious shipments the company is receiving off the books. Intel and rumors they've received about supposed projects, as well as references to a mysterious Project Augur. Tobias spends much of their time replying with vague assurances that everything is above board, and any increased security measures and mysterious actions are normal actions taken to protect our IP and ensure the integrity of our research environment. Nat notes references to phrases like augmented tactical and area of effect that are clearly not representative of ecotech functionality and threatens to go public with their information if Tobias refuses to be transparent with what they are doing. Tobias continues to dodge and attempt to reassure, even inviting them to be added to a visitors list for a guided tour, though notes that they would need to pass a security background check before doing so. The exchange ends there. Another document that appears to predate the collapse details a memo sent covering R&D budget at the Colton County Rebirth facilities. Such items noted include $3.4 billion for autonomous recon drones, $1.8 billion of this will go to hardware, and notes the use of titanium casing. $900 million will go to AI development, with notes that the goal is to make it near sentient, and makes passing mention of IT handling an issue with the AI DMing people on social media. The final $500 million is for rebuilding a hastily built facility that subsequently burned down. $600 million for Project Kill Switch. $350 million of this will be put to research, noting the neural wave manipulation, though effective, was too messy despite having fried the test subject adequately. The remaining $250 million is earmarked for PR cover-up, with a note that they're on to whoever is leaking information. $90 million for Operation OPSEC, biometric security systems. $30 million here is designated for hardware upgrades, with a note that this will utilize DNA and RNA identification. The remaining $60 million is designated for legal payouts for, quote, disgruntled test subjects. A redacted amount is designated for an off-the-books line item. The only note on this item is trust us. $12 million is designated for, quote, employee perks, noting that morale is important. The majority of this is set for therapy and notes nightmares regarding an incident with the company dog. The remainder is designated for new office chairs, boasting features such as overtime booster cup holders and the ability to keep track of the user's weight. There are also references to a project known only as Night Latch, and comments about securing funding from Congress. It ends with a note to keep innovating and shredding paperwork. It is signed R&D Management with the catchphrase, innovation without hesitation. A postscript follows. Whoever keeps expending classified pizza lunches needs to either share or stop. $1,200 on, quote, truffle-infused mozzarella is not a valid line item. Along with this next document are some images of a variety of high-tech weaponry developed by Rebirth for use by Exo-Rig enhanced individuals, here described for the first time as the Exoborne. The document describes the weapons in more detail and begins with an urgent message warning about the rogue reborn guardians who have rebelled against Rebirth. We are in the midst of an uprising. The rebel guardians, now calling themselves Reborn, have fully rebelled. Rebirth is under siege, and the survival of our operations depends on the rapid deployment and optimization of weaponry capable of suppressing insurgents and neutralizing our own Exo-Rig equipped forces. The situation is critical, and failure to act decisively will result in the collapse of Rebirth's control. The following experimental equipment must undergo immediate testing and refinement. Expedite all evaluations and prepare for deployment. The time for hesitation and caution is over. The first of these weapons is the Rebirth Experimental Assault Rifle, aka the RXAR, codenamed Striker. Intended to be the standard-issue rifle used by Exoborne and Rebirth security forces, it is heftier and stronger than regular assault rifles used by traditional troops, modified to account for the augmented strength of those with Exo-Rigs. It is the most versatile of the weapons developed and was designed for adaptability and mass deployment, though the company has seen supply chain issues owing to outdated parts from previous iterations. The next weapon we learn of is the Rebirth Experimental Machine Gun, or RXMG, codenamed Ripsaw. The Ripsaw was originally designed to be a vehicle-mounted 50-caliber weapon that was converted for use by Exoborne soldiers. Prior to the collapse, it saw limited use. Since the Reborn Uprising, however, the weapon has become crucial for Rebirth in dispersing rebel groups and maintaining control of contested zones, and was tested for its, quote, wound-to-kill ratio capabilities against high-density protester groups. Finally, we find the Rebirth Experimental Marksman Rifle, or RXMR, codenamed Piercer. This weapon is valued for its long-range capabilities. The development of this weapon was never publicly revealed, though its purpose is clear. Designed for precision elimination, it is able to put down not only normal forces, but also Exo-Rig enhanced individuals, having been evaluated for its effectiveness against a variety of Exo-Rig armor variants. It is a reliable tool when seeking to quickly eliminate a target from a distance. The document describing the accelerated research of these weapons ends with the revelation that Rebirth is losing ground, and desertion has stripped the company of vital resources, forcing them to weaponize every tool at their disposal. It is believed that these weapons will be the company's last line of defense against total annihilation. A belief that proved to not be entirely accurate, as it appears that Rebirth ultimately decided to weaponize the Stratos Towers, throwing the world into chaos before going silent. To this end, we see a document titled Evacuation that seems like it may have come just preceding the event known as the collapse. It reads, Message to all R&D tech workers. The projected incoming weather event predicted by our geostationary weather satellite system is beyond global catastrophe level. Evacuate and relocate. Failure to relocate before final lockdown will result in termination of employment and revocation of access to Rebirth facilities. Lockdown has been initiated. Further instructions will follow on site. This is not a drill. It can be presumed that this alert went out after Rebirth chose to weaponize the towers, contributing heavily to the event known as the collapse. Finally, we have a BBS log document. It details a handful of messages and files found in a BBS message board known as Rebirth Express. Much of the material seems to predate the collapse. The log indicates the board was logged into by a user known as TechWeasel, who immediately contacts the system admin, designated Nerdlord. They argue briefly about TechWeasel crashing the system, and they say they want access to Project A logs, which they were intentionally locked out of. It soon becomes clear that the project relates to the AI being developed by the company that was noted previously. The project was locked down due to casual leaks, and that it had started posting selfies. Another message checked by TechWeasel comes from a user noted as Big Boss, directing employees to stop letting the AI access social media, and that it has sent messages to DARPA requiring the PR department to have to run damage control for 48 hours. He demands that they disconnect it from the public internet immediately. The final message the user checks is from Nerdlord and states simply, TechWeasel, I know what you did. You cannot hide from me. I am everywhere. The final part of the log involves the user accessing a file that seems to be from after the collapse created by the sysop, and is a list of people whose names have begun to appear frequently amid rumors and such. They are accompanied by images for most of these people as well. It reads as follows. I've begun writing down some rumors I've heard about some people to keep a kind of document on them here. Nobody knows about it, yo, so don't leak it. For us retro geeks only. Tar. Who even is this guy? His name is everywhere. Tech skills are through the roof. I'm almost afraid of what his capabilities are, especially when it comes to software. Mesh. This kid's going places. I hear she hacked a fleet of Rebirth dropships. That's damn cool and elite. The Butcher. If it's the Wild West out there, this lady is the new Wild Bill. Holy shit. Watch your fingers around her machete. Sovereign says the only law is the deal, whatever that means. First Sergeant Net. I guess Alpha isn't just jarheads. This guy's out there retaking roads and bridges and whole towns. What would a new America even look like? Omnis. Their name has been popping up here and there in the ether. The scuttlebutt is that they're some kind of hacker org. After this stage was solved, Brigman appeared in the Discord with a message hinting that there might be things left to uncover, or perhaps of things to come. Hey guys, my time is limited. They're tracing my location. I've left some pointers for you to use from the Tech Division container that points you to specific locations in Colton County. I'm not sure what Rebirth's automated systems will do, but if they complete the trace to you, you will lose all access. I've found a way around it. It's in the files. Brigman out. Once the trace timer ran out, access to the rehack ARG was locked down, and attempting to bring a stage up prompts the user for an admin password. Brigman reappeared with this message. What I feared has become true. Rebirth traced your location. There is no longer a way to reach the terminal. I have foreseen this. You have the solution in the locations. Brigman out. At this time, users have been analyzing a file contained within the new stage titled locations.png, suspecting that there may be coordinates hidden within that point to a location that can be visited in the game during the playtest to find the password, and they were indeed correct. A user discovered through a particular use of steganography that 3 sets of clues pointing to different locations in the game, one on each map, were hidden in the file. As the third map was unavailable in the playtest, they have been attempting to extrapolate the password from the 2 that were found. As of the time of this recording, they have been unsuccessful. Moving on to the playtest itself, there is a lot of info revealed early on just through the opening cutscenes that were available before and after the tutorial, as well as through preview text in the collectibles section of the game. We see the ever-worsening climate in snippets of news broadcasts and social media posts. This is overlapped with a Rebirth advertisement introducing the Exo-Rig. The scenes culminate in a voiceover from Tar describing humanity's hand in ruining the environment, and that Rebirth promised a solution via their towers, and mankind rallied behind them, advancing technology in record time. Rebirth became our saviors, and we became their guardians, he says, before noting, Rebirth was a lie. He describes Rebirth turning the Exo-Rigs against mankind, and saviors became oppressors. Sentiment quickly turned against Rebirth. Violent protests begat violent response, ultimately turning lethal. Rebirth Guardians who did not want to comply with these orders had their Exo-Rigs overridden, and they were forced to kill. Some, such as Tar, were able to break free of this override and rebel against the company, calling themselves Reborn. Tar figured out a way to hack the Exo-Rigs, bypassing some of the systems put in place to control the Guardians, and helped to free more of them to join the rebellion. As mentioned previously via internal documents from Rebirth, it seems the rebellion was succeeding, and Rebirth was backed into a corner, losing ground and becoming more and more desperate. Unbeknownst to most, the functionality of the towers was not the miracle it was made out to be. They operated through a system known as oleosis to pull the energy from the storms and redistribute it elsewhere in order to maintain a man-made equilibrium with the weather. However, Whisper spoke of the energy output nowhere near matching what was pulled out of the atmosphere, seemingly breaking the laws of thermodynamics. The first law states that in an isolated system, energy can be neither created nor destroyed, only changed. The second describes the irreversibility of the natural process. In both cases, the tower seemingly did not make sense. So where was this energy going, and to what end? Mankind soon discovered the answer to this question in the worst way possible. With no other action left to them, Rebirth ultimately reversed the functionality of the Stratos towers and unleashed the energy that had been stored up, bringing the delayed power of all the storms they prevented to the fore, amping up the severe weather and causing untold destruction and chaos. Society collapsed, disease ran rampant, and mankind was pushed to the edge of extinction. In the aftermath, at least 13% of the former United States is now uninhabitable, the climate disaster forever changing the face of the planet. In the words of Mesh,
"The climate didn't change. The climate turned around and beat the shit out of us."
This event is now known as the Collapse. Rebirth disappeared, and eventually the towers went dark. With nobody left to fight, the rebellion seemingly fell apart. Some thought they might form some kind of superhero league of sorts, but in the end they all went their own way, most becoming effectively mercenaries, with Tar seemingly fading into obscurity. Until one day, years later, the towers suddenly reactivated. Rebirth has returned, and seemingly Colton County is at the center of events. Tar puts out a call, trying to gather the Reborn to him and bring the fight back to Rebirth and finish things for good. However, things may not be so simple this time. Not all Reborn are friendly. Out only for themselves after being left to their own devices, leaderless and without aims for years. In addition, factions of survivors are converging on Colton County, seeking seclusion, safety, survival, or even opportunity. The Reborn will have to deal with all of these, some friendly and some very much not, in their search for Tar. We've learned more about these groups and their leaders early in the game as well. The game begins with you having just crash-landed in Colton County. The Reborn that had been with you on the transport ship turned on you, and in the fight that ensued, the ship came down hard, but you survived. You wake up to a voice telling you to get up, helping you traverse the wreckage and reclaim a safe place that once housed numerous Reborn before some sort of fight broke out amongst them, causing a number of deaths. Once a Rebirth-owned produce farm, it is known now as the Pain Arsenal, and it is yours to reclaim as a base of operations. The voice guiding you is someone named Mesh, leader of the group known as the Potluck, her AI assistant Frank chiming in on occasion. She's heard rumors of Tar resurfacing in Colton County and will be willing to share information and put you in contact with others who can help, from both high and low places, if you help her in return. The Potluck is a group of refugees that work together to help one another, each contributing to aid the group. They have control of old Rebirth dropships, hacked to be usable by non-Exo-Rig users, and are essential for your ability to get in and out of the greater region safely. There are two groups she ultimately puts you in contact with. The first is Alpha, a group composed of what's left of the United States Army. The belief is that the United States government collapsed, but he says that this isn't entirely true. In reality, it fractured, with a few groups vying for control. An insurrection took place, and the president was moved to safety, something called the Alpha Protocol being enacted, recalling all troops from all operations everywhere else. Alpha falls under the command of Secretary of Defense Prescott, who in turn reports to the president directly. Which puts us on the right side of this ungodly shit show, Net notes. The Alpha are working to reclaim territory in Colton County, but are heavily contested by a bandit group known as the Nord. The Nord are what's left of a group of Norwegian oil riggers. With the cataclysmic storms, they were lost at sea for so long that they lost all sense of who they were. Eventually, they washed up in Colton County when the Snow Troll, the oil rig they resided on, was thrown violently inland. They push out from the space, terrorizing any who do not call themselves Nord. They are also believed to be cannibals, likely the result of their extended isolation and bitter circumstances. The other group Mesh puts you in contact with are known as the Sovereign and are led in the area by someone called the Butcher. The Sovereign started as a social movement enacting protests against increased governmental and rebirth control, but in the wake of disaster has been transformed into a way of life. Nomadic by nature, the Sovereign travel from place to place, leaving their mark across what remains of the country, living and dying by the only rule they recognize, that of the deal. Upon initial contact, you learn that the Sovereign faces heavy resistance from a bandit group known as the Bodkin, which they want your help to deal with. The Bodkin are what is left of the original inhabitants of Colton County, but have become aggressive and insular in the wake of the collapse. Referred to as, quote, a bevy of cousin fuckers by the Butcher, they will viciously attack any outsiders who encroach on their lands, believing that all outsiders seek to steal what is rightfully theirs. The remnants of many of their horrible acts to achieve this end can be seen around Colton County. There is some other fragmented information available via collectibles and the like in the game, but with limited time to discover such mysteries, I will wait until I have a clearer picture of these things before discussing them. In the meantime, I'll dig up as much as I can while the playtest is going. If the playtest is already over by the time you're seeing this, then keep an eye out for any future playtests that may pop up. There is a lot to see in Colton County, if you can survive the trip.
Okay, you got this. Probably. All right. See ya.